Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Faye Watt, and let's queer up lesbian and queer women. Queer activists Maeve and Maryam Ravish face Taliban torture and execution risk. Two young LGBTQ activists named Maeve and Maryam Ravish were arrested by the Taliban last month while attempting to flee Afghanistan. The UK-based Peter Tatchell Foundation reports the pair now face possible torture or even execution. According to Nemat Sadat, CEO of Afghan LGBT plus network Roshaniya, quote, they are expected to be tortured to reveal the names of other LGBTs and sentenced to a long jail term or possibly executed, end quote. The foundation is working to secure their release. According to the foundation, Maeve, a 23-year-old trans woman, and Ravish, age 19, had planned to board a flight to Iran on March 20th, along with Ravish's partner, Parwen Hussaini. But at the Kabul airport, Taliban intelligence officers detained them after finding queer content on their phones. Sadat said, quote, Maeve and Maryam were beaten by the Taliban, end quote. Hussaini, who did make it to Iran, says both her life and Ravish's have since been threatened by their own families. She also revealed that Maeve's family in Afghanistan has rejected support from Roshaniya. However, Maeve's sister in Michigan, Susan Battaglia, has pleaded for global health. Susan said, quote, my family in Afghanistan is very anxious about Maeve being tortured and killed. We ask world governments to demand that Maeve be released from prison and safely leave the country, end quote. Under Taliban rule, homosexuality is banned. Women must be chaperoned. Also, Maeve admitted to abandoning her religion, which can be punishable by death. Sadat is calling on global rights groups to act now and demand the release of both women before it's too late. You know, stories like this make me sad, and they're not going to be uncommon. You know, they're not going to be uncommon moving forward. The fact that you can go to an airport and it is okay for security to look through your phone. Okay, what's next? Can we look between your legs? What's going to be next? Right. You know, these poor women, these poor young women, they're in their early 20s.
Right. Yeah.
And now there's a high risk of them possibly not being on this earth anymore. Right. Now their families are also threatened. So now their families backlash, they don't want the backlash of this. So now they're, okay, we can't support you either. Mm-hmm. You know, so basically they're just left in this prison to be tortured and executed unless they give names of other LGBTQ people.
But if they do, they'll be kept there. Right.
It's very sad.
It's sad.
And they made it that far to the airport and just almost make it to their freedom and be put back. It's a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and we need more stories like this to expose what's going on in the world, to make the world know what's going on. We can't do this anymore. I mean, you know, this isn't the 1600s or 5000 BC. This is, today's world where everybody should live in freedom.
Yeah, but I feel like we're taking 15 steps back every day, William. You know what I mean? Like, as a woman, I wasn't allowed to have my own checking account until the late 70s. You know, as a woman, we weren't even allowed to vote until way after you folks were, Right. And then we look at stories like this where it's like they need to be chaperoned. Mm-hmm. Just saying that you're not a part of a religion is enough to get you to stay in jail and to maybe be killed on the basis of religion. We're killing people.
Right.
Yeah, it just makes us, like here in the U.S. we have like freedoms. We have freedoms. We're able to like actually be open. But in countries like that, even being an activist, like you could just be taken at an airport, mm-hmm. and it's very sad and it's unfortunate. These were activists, these were activists trying to like actually like advocate for LGBTQ causes, and they were tortured. I mean, it just makes us be more grateful here in the U.S. that we actually have the privilege to speak out.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about that earlier, you and I, about, in our country, we are privileged that we get to live how, we can express our lives how we want and be open about it.
For now.
But,
Well, a lot of people don't have that.
They don't.
And you're right, Vaughn. We've got to stop and take a moment and go, okay, right now, this is where my 2 feet are at, right? We're okay. We're allowed to be who we are. We're allowed to dress in big, ginormous dresses for no reason.
Exactly.
And just have a great time doing it, and other people aren't as fortunate,
right.
you know, and so we try to send good vibes their way. And I think about the family here in the States trying to fight everything tooth and nail to try to get attention for this. I hope that you get the attention that you need. We will continue to bring stories like this because they're important. Like William said, people need to know what's really happening out there. A lot of these news channels are just giving you smoke and mirrors, and you really don't know what's going on in other countries. You know, get yourself educated. Social media is actually good for that, to let you know what's really happening from the people who are living it. So that is the big LGBTQ story for today, and there is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this.